Role of test case in different types of testing. So we have different types of testing which we discussed it in the previous slides. Functional testing, performance testing, and different regression testing and so on. So the test case plays an important role in each type of testing. But how we are writing the test case differs. When it comes to functional testing, we will start validating each and every functionality in detail. When it comes to regression testing, we are just going to reuse the functional test cases. When it comes to UAT testing, we will not definitely write these kind of text box based text box testing. So how test case plays an important role in different types of testing is what we are going to see now. Here in functional testing, individual requirements will be covered. For example, this username field will accept only 15 characters. So what we will do is we will try to input 1 character, we will try to input 0 characters, we will try to input 15 characters, we will try to input 16 characters, and we will try to put alphanumeric, we will try to put special characters. All these comes under functional testing. So here the test cases are completely derived from the requirement document. So what the requirement document says, based on that document and the solution, we will arrive on the positive and negative test cases. And we have the elaborate format, like how I showed you, the steps, the scenarios, the module, the test case, the expected result, everything will be in an elaborate format for functional testing. The next one is regression testing. Here the regression testing, as I told you earlier, the test cases prepared for functional testing will be used again for regression testing in the next iteration. We discussed this example earlier. When you test a login and registration page for iteration 1, and when iteration 2 comes, there is a forgot password functionality which is introduced, and there is a ticket booking functionality which is after you log in. So ideally in iteration 2 also we have to do a login and we have to do a registration and we have to test the forgot password. So ideally you have to re-execute the test cases which we prepared earlier in iteration 1. So whenever you re-execute a set of test cases, then it is called as regression testing. Regression testing is always used to ensure whether the existing functionality is not getting impacted because of the new functionality. So in order to test that, we will use the existing test case. But the test case will be the same, but the mode of verification will be different. Whereas in functional testing, we will individually validate each and every field. Whereas in regression testing, we will validate whether the fields remains the same. That's all. The intention of testing will be little different. We should overall check whether the existing functionality is as same and not being impacted. Whereas in the functional testing, we will individually test each and every text box for the first time, that how it works, how it behaves. Whereas in we will also test in functional testing, we will also do equivalence partitioning, we will also do boundary value analysis. Whereas in regression testing, we will not go in that detail. We will just check whether the field is not going null, whether the mandatory fields are still asking for input if not entered, and if at all any characters or any special characters are given, the system is throwing an error message. We will not go in detail. The intention of verifying the results will be different in regression testing, whereas the test case is same. The next one is exploratory testing. We've already discussed this type of testing earlier. This falls under agile methodology, kind of free flow testing. So here there is no phase called planning, and the test cases will not be created in advance. The tester will be given a build, or tester will be given with the application, and as soon as he tests parallelly, he will write the test case. He will not even write a formal way of test case, or he will not write it in an elaborate format. He will even jot down his ideas on what to test. Testing login, testing negative login, testing with incorrect password. So they will just write an one-liner. They will not write a formal test case document, because in Agile there is no need for documentation, and documentation is not a mandatory one actually. So they will not maintain any formal test case document. So in exploratory testing, the test case will not play a major role. Rather, the ideas will play a major role. They will call it as ideas. They will not call it as a test case document. They will just note down the ideas, and it depends on person to person how they are going to execute or how they are going to maintain the sheet. The next one is usability testing. This is similar like UAT testing. We will test from user's perspective. Here you will not call the document as a test case document. Here we will say testing end-to-end scenarios. We will call the test case as scenarios or task. We will not call it as test case. Here you will not have step by step. You will not have the test case document as what I have shown you. You will not have any steps. Rather, you will have a one-liner scenario. You will execute a high-level scenario will be given to you, and you will execute the same. Similarly, like verification of purchase, successful purchase. If you are testing any e-commerce website, verification of successful purchase, verification of refund. If you are testing any application, banking application, verification of customer boarding, successful customer boarding. So whether a user is able to do a successful customer boarding. So it's similar to the end-to-end activities, end-to-end activities or a day-to-day activities of a user, end user or consumers. When it comes to e-commerce testing, it's consumers. So here you will not have a detailed test case, detailed steps. Here you will have the high-level scenarios which you have to execute. You can see the example. Can the user successfully add a new customer in the application? Can a user successfully board accounts? Can a user successfully complete a purchase? If the user is able to do a refund. So these are the high-level scenarios that will be tested as part of usability testing. You will not have steps, you will not have all the prerequisites, you will not have the detailed flow, you will not have a very formal format of a test case document here. Here they will call it as scenario. The next one is performance testing. To measure how the system responds when large number of transactions or when so much of load or so much of users accessing the application at the same time, how the system responds. To know the performance of the system, this testing will be done. Here, test case is very simple. You will write the steps and at last you will include repeat from step 2 or repeat from step 1 or repeat from step 3 or whatever it is. So you have to loop in. The test case will be, there will be only one test case and you will repeat the test case for 100 times to ensure the performance of the application. Generally, to give you an example, what we did was we tested our transaction server in our bank, and to test the performance of that server, we have to pump in like 1000 transactions at the same time to the server, and we should see how the server is reacting or how the server is responding. So what we did is we simulated we wrote a program to simulate 1000 transactions in a loop. We looped it, and in a loop continuously we triggered transaction to the server. So here your test case will be like trigger a pause transaction and repeat. So you have to repeat it. Generally these kind of testing will be, the performance testings will be automated. You cannot manually do it. It is quite impossible. So 90% your performance testing will be automated. So here the test case plays a major role, but writing test case, the intention of writing test case is little different. You will not validate any field or you will not validate any functionality. Here a same function you will repeat it for n number of times to ensure the behavior of the application. So here the test case are very simple and there will always be a step called repeat. So you will repeat it. These are major types of testing where test cases play an important role, and as we have seen in few types of testing, you will not call it as test case, rather you will call it with different names. So these are the major advantages and roles of test cases in different types of testing. One of the major advantage which I forgot to mention you in my previous section is when there is a production issue. If you are questioned whether this functionality has been tested or not, test case is the major evidence to prove that you have tested the test case and these are the results. So this is one of the major important advantage which I forgot to mention you in my previous section. So thank you so much. Stay tuned for the next lecture.